It's time once again for Mark Webb, Knowledge Investigator.
Mr. Webb, I just got a job teaching geography.
Congratulations.
Thanks, but I have a question. I've always heard that most rivers flow south. Why is that? I don't want to look unprepared if someone asks me in class.
Well, I certainly don't want you to feel unsure. I'll look into it for you.
Journey through all of human knowledge and see how it's all related as you follow the adventures of the man with the action-packed brain case, America's fabulous freelance knowledge investigator.
Yours geographically, Mark Webb. I actually didn't recall ever hearing that most rivers flow south, but I do like to give my clients what they want, so I found a local river to check things out. I brought along my trusty compass. Hey, that's interesting. The river was flowing south. I found myself another river and, what do you know? South as well. With the ice, there actually wasn't much water moving, but it was pointed in the right direction. I knew one thing though. I needed a bigger sample. Fortunately, I didn't have to travel the world to explore more rivers. I could bring the world to me, in the pages of my atlas. In western Connecticut, the Housatonic River flows generally south. In central Connecticut, the Connecticut River itself flows pretty much south. In eastern Connecticut, the Thames River flows south. In New York, the Hudson River flows almost due south. The mighty Mississippi flows south. What's going on here? The Columbia River flows generally west. The St. Lawrence River in Canada flows northeast. The Amazon in Brazil flows east and a little bit north. The Thames in England flows east. The Seine in France flows northwest. The longest river in the world, the Nile, flows due north. You know, I do remember being somewhat confused in high school when we learned that Upper Egypt was to the south and Lower Egypt was to the north. Could perception have something to do with this? The Indus River flows south-southwest. Both the Ganges and the Brahmaputra rivers meander about a bit but wind up going south. Both the Yangtze and the Yellow River in China flow northeast. So what was really going on here? It seems that the rivers around the world flowed in all different directions, but maybe on the average a few more were going south. At times such as this, I like some food to help me think. I think I'll go for some pancakes this time. Look at that. The syrup is always flowing from a high point towards a low point. I tried the same experiment with other foods, with the same result. The flow always went from high ground towards low ground. Things were starting to make sense.
Picture, if you will, that you have your head at sea level and you're looking out towards a continent. What you're going to see is an ocean, and then the continental mass is going to climb up to a highest point. Then there's going to be a highest point, and it's going to slant gradually down to another ocean. If you're a drop of rain and you fall towards this point, if you fall 1 inch to this side, because water can't flow uphill, you're eventually going to wind up in this ocean. And if you fall 1 inch to this side of the peak, you're eventually going to wind up in this ocean. This feature is the continental divide. Now, in the United States, this runs north-south. So this would be at the Atlantic, this would be the Pacific. But there's no reason the highest point can't have north on one side and south on the other. So let's see how that looks in a couple of real continents. This is South America. We have a ridge of mountains that runs north-south. If rain falls on this side, it's going to flow east into the Atlantic. And if rain falls on this side, it's going to flow west into the Pacific. But let's take a look at southern Asia. Here's India, here's the Himalayas. Obviously, if rain falls here, it has to make its way southward towards the Indian Ocean.
So why do many people think that rivers follow a compass direction? A quick internet search shows how common this belief is. Part of it comes from the fact that most of the Earth's population lives in the northern hemisphere. Our mapping conventions place north at the top, so it's easy for the mind to associate south with down. Also, look at how most of the major land masses get narrower toward the south. This is a complete accident of geography, since the continents are only in the places that tectonic forces put them. Nevertheless, there is more coastline facing south, or southwest, or southeast than north, so there's a good chance a person knows of a nearby south-flowing river to provide anecdotal evidence for the belief. My report to my client: an understandable misconception.
All right, that makes sense. On how to explain it in my classes. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
End of investigation. End of report.
Remarks? In science, it's always a bad move to dismiss an idea just because it sounds silly. In the early 20th century, Alfred Wegener proposed that all of the Earth's continents used to fit together as one. He supported his claim with strong evidence. But most people dismissed his theory because they could not imagine how the continents could move apart. More than 40 years later, though, further study by new techniques proved Wegener had been correct all along, and his critics had to eat their words. Sometimes there's an even more dangerous reaction to a new theory. Scientists have been known to try and prevent the publication of revolutionary ideas, and even go so far as to try and get others fired for proposing such theories. No one wins by this kind of censorship. Humans only advance their knowledge by open dialogue and informed debate. So go out and create a new paradigm. Yours geographically, Mark Webb.